Hello everyone and good afternoon. I'm Srija Deb and we have prepared this slide together. Our team consists of me, Srija Deb, Meghna Majumdar and Professor Dr. Niladri Shekhar Dash. We are a team at the Linguistic Research Unit and we are from ISI Kolkata. So thank you for having us and our paper is on designing a comprehensive news text corpus of Indian Englishes, NTCIE, to open up new areas of investigation and application. Okay, so let me begin by giving an introduction and background of the study we have done. So the first point is a systematic and comprehensive description of Indian English represented in newspapers published across India is a long overdue study. After KCIE, which is the Kolhapur corpus of Indian English, done by Shivnath Shastri in 1988, little is known about how evident and powerful a socio-cultural heterogeneity can be visualized in framing the disposition of the Indian English when it comes to referring to the variations noted among the localized varieties of Indian English known as Indian Englishes. So our paper has attempted to include the many varieties of Indian English that has never been captured before. Earlier, the works were only focused on one single variety. We have captured 12 different possible distinct varieties of Indian English in our paper. Okay. To address this challenge, as mentioned in point number 2, we report on the compilation of a corpus, namely News Text Corpus of Indian English, NTCIE, which we designed to serve as a primary resource in understanding why and how the many varieties of Indian English are found in India. Okay, is this slide visible?
Yeah.
Okay. So the earlier works done on this are the Kolhapur Corpus of Indian English, the International Corpus of English, ICE India, by Shastri and Leitner, 2002. This is a paper, Linguistic and Social Characteristics of Indian English by Jason Baldridge, 2002. And a more recent work was done by Professor Dr. Niladri Shekhar Dash on News Text Corpus of Indian English. This has shown the Kolkata variety of Indian English and the corpus was taken from the Telegraph. Okay, so for data collection, we collected from 15 English newspapers of 12 capital cities. And for more organized and consistent data, we chose 4 different domains: agriculture, culture, politics, and tourism. So a criteria for selecting the newspapers was also predefined, and the word count of the corpus was approximately 24 lakh words. So what we did was, for each of those 12 capital cities, we assigned 2 lakh words. And each of these 4 domains were to have 50,000 words approximately. So we had decided that each domain will have 5 doc files, and each of those doc files will have 10,000 words. However, we have faced a few challenges regarding this, which we will discuss in the next slide. So the chosen time span for the corpus was from January to June 2021. So here are the 12 different cities we chose: Srinagar, Chandigarh, New Delhi, Lucknow, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Bangalore, Trivandrum, Chennai, Hyderabad. So I couldn't find a more recent map, so I have just highlighted this part. So this is the Telangana, represented by Hyderabad, Kolkata, and Guwahati. So these are the 12 cities we chose from 12 different states. So there were a few problems or challenges faced while collecting the data. So I'll first go over the logistic problems. So while collecting the data, since the time span we chose was January to June 2021, we saw that a lot of the information were about COVID-19 as well as the state elections. So this may have reduced the chance of diversity in the news text. However, we do not necessarily see this as a problem, rather an opportunity. Okay. So the next issue we faced was while collecting the data, we were depleting information on tourism and agriculture far quicker than those of culture and politics. So what happened is, in case of tourism or even agriculture, we couldn't manage these 5 doc folders as mentioned earlier. So each one was to have 10,000 words. But since there wasn't enough data, we had to resort to more available domains like politics or culture. So there could have been in our corpus, this discrepancy was developed. Like the domain of politics, we have 7 or 8 files, but in tourism we might have 3 files. So this was an issue. And in case of technical problems, we saw that Microsoft Word does not actually have a sentence counting tool specifically. So what we did was we used an online NLP tool called Text Fixer to count the number of sentences to give you the quantitative analysis of our data. Okay, the second problem, technical problem we faced was some of the newspapers like Times of India and Deccan Chronicle, they did not allow us to copy data manually from their website. So after disabling the JavaScript, we were able to do that. Okay, so these are the quantitative findings from our corpus. So here I have presented the newspaper-wise word and sentence count. As you can see, the Times of India has the highest data coverage. This is because while selecting the newspaper, we had prepared a few criteria. Like the first criteria was that newspaper has to be state published. And if there are multiple state published newspapers, then we have to go with the one with the highest readership or circulation. And in case there aren't any state published newspapers, we will choose those state editions of other state published newspapers that were popular in that city. So what happened is, we chose Times of India for several cities, which is why it gave us the maximum data coverage. Now, please look at here. This is the city-wise word or sentence count. So we can see here that Hyderabad has the highest word count. But if you notice, we have a fairly consistent distribution of data in the cities. This is because we had already predefined a fixed word count for each city, which is 2 lakh words. So you can see that more or less all of them are the same. Okay, so the next is month-wise word and sentence count. Here we can see that March has the highest data count. By data count, I mean the word count, not the sentence count. And the month of January and May has the lowest. So again, we had predefined a fixed word count for each month, which was approximately 8,000 words. So what happened was here, January could not give us enough data, which is why we moved on to February. After seeing that February had given us more or less 8,000 words, we moved on to the next month. If the number of words was exceeding 8,000, or if it was becoming 10,000 or 12,000, we stopped right there and we then moved on to the next month. So this is how we maintained a consistency in the word distribution amongst the months. Okay, so next here I am showing you the domain-wise word and sentence count. So here you can see that politics has the highest data coverage, news text coverage, whereas tourism, as mentioned earlier, has the lowest. And I have mentioned this earlier as well, that each of the domain were to have 50,000 words for each city. So again, we have tried to maintain the consistency as much as possible, but because tourism and agriculture depleted the data quickly compared to culture and politics, there's a difference between the percentages. Okay, so this is the city domain combined word count. Here we can see that Chandigarh has the highest data count in agriculture. Lucknow has the highest data count in culture as well as politics, and Srinagar has the highest data count in tourism. Excuse me. So a lot of factors have influenced the number of word count here, and since the time span selected was from January to June 2021, we can see that Chandigarh here rules the domain of agriculture. However, Srinagar will always rule the domain of tourism because it is one of the most popular tourist spots in India. So these are some of the factors influencing the city domain combined word count. Okay, so next is the city domain combined sentence count. So we see that Chennai has the highest sentence count in both agriculture and culture, whereas Trivandrum has the highest sentence count in both politics and tourism. Okay, so here are a few qualitative observations with respect to lexical items. I would also like to mention before going into these that these require further empirical evidence, but still these are some of the things that we saw while collecting the data. Frequency analysis is still pending, so this requires further evidence. So first is unique lexical units in texts of each city. Each localized variety of Indian English gave us some unique lexical units. I have listed some of them here, like Samvat, Khaps, Darshan timing. Samvat is year, and the meaning is year, like Sal. And this can be found, this is a recurrent occurrence in the news text of Srinagar. Khaps is a very popular term in and around Chandigarh. Darshan timing has been used in the news text of Hyderabad. Okay. The second is identical lexical units in the text of certain cities. By this, I'm trying to say is that some of the lexical units are similar for some states. This was seen mainly in those cities that shared the geographical borders or boundaries. Like Arthia was a very common recurrent unit in and around Chandigarh as well as New Delhi. Whereas Bigha means it is a unit of land measurement, and Arthia means middle length. So Bigha was commonly used in the news text of Kolkata as well as Guwahati. Okay, so the third observation is collocations or lexical pairs with unique ideas. So here I have listed three collocations: farmers movement, Taluka Panchayat, and Halka Panchayat. So farmers movement is a fairly common collocation in several cities of India, but Taluka Panchayat was only seen in the news text of Ahmedabad, and Halka Panchayat was only seen in the news text of Srinagar. So they cannot be used alternatively. So this is what I was trying to show, that the lexical contrastivity between the different regional varieties, like Halka Panchayat means village level Panchayat, and Taluka Panchayat means block level Panchayat. But news text of Srinagar was never seen to use Taluka Panchayat while they were explaining block level Panchayats, and vice versa. Okay. The fourth one is use of Indic terms as established jargon in newspaper texts. So there were several Indic terms like Gherao, Lathi Charge, Dharna, Arthia, Mandi. Some newspapers chose to show them in italics, while others showed them in plain form. So since these were fairly intelligible lexical items and fairly common amongst Indians, all those newspapers used them quite freely in their articles. Okay, so the next one is the importance and relevance of NTCIE. So, what is the significance of our corpus? So, I have listed 7 different points here. So, the first is news texts stand out from the rest of the secondary text corpus, like business letters or academic journals. Like they are a more comprehensive collection of data. The second one is it is relevant as a resource for developing materials for English language teaching for Indian learners. So you can use it for ELT as well. It corresponds to current affairs on a wide array of topics. Some of the domains we have listed before, like agriculture, culture, tourism, politics, etc. It goes on, education. Anyway. So the fourth one is it will help establish a separate identity of Indian English on a global platform besides British English or American English, right? Like we have several new emerging varieties of world Englishes like Indian English or Malay English or Indonesian English or Pakistani English. So so this corpus will help us establish Indian English on a global platform as well. It is a storehouse of information relating to various areas, fields, domains, and disciplines that shall allow us to perform comprehensive intralinguistic and extralinguistic analysis. Okay, so the sixth one is it presents an accurate representation of the contemporary use of a language. And the seventh is the NTCIE supplies information representative of each regional variety, as we have mentioned earlier. Okay. So some of the limitations we faced while collecting the data as well as the corpus has a few limitations. They are repetition of some newspapers for certain cities. So I have mentioned this point earlier that we had to use the same newspapers as second or third options for several cities. However, we don't necessarily see it as a limitation because it gives us a variety in the news text we collected. Okay. The second point is lack of enough digital access to some newspapers like the Pioneer or the Sentinel or the Assam Tribune. These newspapers did not give us enough digital access and they did not have enough news online. So we have to resort to third options or even fourth options for these cities. Okay. So the third limitation is unequal news distribution for the pandemic and state elections. So this was mentioned earlier. Okay. The fourth is agriculture data only shows kharif crops and not rabi crops. This was because of the time span we selected. The time span we selected is from January to June 2021. So it is the season of kharif crops. However, in our future scope, we will try to extend the duration of our corpus so that it can include rabi crops. Similarly, because of the time span, we faced another issue, is that the corpus missed the text covering popular touring and festive periods. Okay, so the future scope of our study. The first one is multidimensional statistical analysis. We can use NTCIE to perform word and token frequency, to see new types of collocation emerging from these localized varieties, lexical compounding, loan translations, neologisms, and unique localized terms. Okay, so what are the possible applications of our corpus? They are compilation of dictionaries of IE varieties, which is Indian English varieties, generation and development of digital databases, trained language technology tools and systems, localization and customization language data, backup services of IT industries, utilization as a resource for developing materials for ELT for Indian learners, establishing separate identity of Indian English on a global platform. So these are the wide future scope of the corpus we prepared. It will open us, it has opened several doors for future scope. Okay, so I would like to sum it up quickly. The novelty of this work lies in its inclusion of 12 possible distinct varieties of Indian English, a feature never attempted before. The NTCIE will help us study, analyze, and represent behaviors of multiple non-native English varieties existing in Indians. The NTCIE is also available for different statistical and quantitative analysis. Results will be used in multiple works related to linguistics and aligned disciplines. So this was it, and thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I have a doubt on this, it's a kind, just I want to get clarification. You have used the percentage with the words and sentences, right? Is it like a kind of coverage, or how did like the percentage correlates with your analysis?
Yes, it is the news data coverage of each domain, each city, each newspaper. I have listed all the statistical analysis separately. So yes, to say that it's news coverage, yes.
And another question, since Indian English is a very peculiar, way when you like compare it with other English, mainly due to the lexical choices and maybe the other kind of syntactic pattern also, some influence of our Indian languages may be there. Did you do any kind of study, especially like at least type token ratio?
No, that is, we have included that in our future scope. The present study is only about the collection of news data and how we have collected those, the problems we faced, and the entire process of segregating the data and choosing the cities, representing the varieties. Those are the things we focused on. And what you are saying, word and token frequency or the density of collocations, we have left that for our future work. We will do that later.
Yes, it's really good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.